Emmanuel wiped the sweat from his brow as he stared at his phone screen, his heart pounding. He had just placed another bet, this time on a Champions League match. If this one clicked, he would finally recover the money he had lost earlier. The odds looked good. His favorite football tipster had assured him it was a sure game. But deep down, he knew better. Emmanuel was a 24-year-old student at Lagos State University, born into an average Nigerian family. His parents worked hard to provide a decent life, ensuring he never lacked the basics. They were not rich, but they had stability, something he would later take for granted. It all started as fun. One afternoon, his friend David introduced him to sports betting. "Bro, it's easy money," David said, flashing his phone screen filled with winning tickets. "You just need to study the games, and you'll be cashing out big." Emmanuel was skeptical at first, but curiosity got the better of him. He placed a small bet, just 500 Nigerian nairas. To his surprise, he won 3,000 Nigerian nairas. The excitement was electric. "Omo, this thing na real," he exclaimed. That first win was all it took. It wasn't about the money anymore, it was the thrill of winning. The next day, he bet again. And again. Soon, betting became part of his daily routine. He convinced himself that he was different from the others, he had a strategy. At first, Emmanuel kept things under control, betting only small amounts. But as his confidence grew, so did his stakes. One day, he decided to use part of his school fees to place a sure bet. It was a 5-team accumulator with crazy odds. If it clicked, he would triple his money and replace the school fees easily. He lost. Panic set in. How would he explain this to his parents? Instead of stopping, he doubled down, borrowing money from friends, promising to return it in a few days. The cycle repeated itself. He won some, lost more. The losses hurt, but the wins kept him hoping. Before long, he was in serious debt. His roommates began to avoid him, tired of his constant borrowing. His parents noticed that something was off, but he lied, blaming school expenses for his financial troubles. One evening, Emmanuel sat alone in his tiny apartment in Abuja, his phone in his trembling hands. He had just lost 100,000 Nigerian nairas, money he had borrowed from a loan app. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. He had no way to pay it back. As the loan sharks began calling and sending threatening messages, his anxiety skyrocketed. He stopped attending lectures, avoided calls from home, and withdrew from his social life. The once vibrant, confident Emmanuel had become a shadow of himself. His father, sensing that something was wrong, paid him a surprise visit. The sight of Emmanuel's messy room, scattered betting slips, and empty food wrappers told him all he needed to know. "Emmanuel, what is going on?" his father asked, his voice filled with disappointment. Emmanuel broke down in tears, confessing everything. His father listened in silence, then sighed heavily. "Son, do you realize what you have done? You've turned into a liability to this family. How do you expect us to trust you again?" Those words cut deeper than any insult. His own family saw him as a burden. It took hitting rock bottom for Emmanuel to finally seek help. With the support of his elder sister, who convinced their parents to give him another chance, he started attending gambling addiction counseling. It wasn't easy, there were nights he felt the urge to gamble again, but he reminded himself of what he had lost. Months passed, and he slowly started rebuilding his life. He got a part-time job to repay his debts. He apologized to the friends he had hurt and distanced himself from people who still encouraged betting. But the scars remained. Looking back, Emmanuel realized how easily gambling had consumed his life. He had lost money, friendships, trust, and valuable time he could never recover. Though he was on the path to redemption, he knew the damage had already been done. As he walked through the streets of Abuja, watching young men excitedly discussing odds and fixtures, he sighed. If only they knew what he now knew. Betting had promised him wealth, but all it gave him was regret. And this was a price he would never pay again.